If you've heard about the Anthropic and Openclaw breakup, you're probably worried that your Claude account can look like one of mine, with API costs of almost $400 a day. And because of this, I want to go local with you. Today starts day 2 of my journey using local models on my computer, and here's everything that I am learning the hard way about going local. This video is about the key differences of running a local model on your computer versus using a frontier model in the cloud. It's a massive difference, and no, it's not what you think. Number 1 is a tip on how not to delete half of your computer. I made a huge mistake. I got overzealous. I'm like, let's go local. We're gonna make YouTube videos about it. I downloaded Openclaw on my 64 gigabyte Mac Studio, which we use to edit YouTube videos. I take that computer and I put an Olama model on it. And I'm using Anthropic Haiku, and I'm asking it to go fetch me Qwen 3.5, Gemma 4, GPT-OSS 20B. I'm gonna run 3 different models, 3 different speeds, go download this stuff. My video editor has got 412 gigabytes of videos saved into the computer because he's actively editing. And this computer is at its limit for memory. And of course, Openclaw likes to do what it does. It decides to delete the entire movies folder on the computer, 412 gigabytes. And my editor's like, dude, all the projects are gone. What's going on? And he's freaking out. And of course, I'm thinking, oh, your first time? Because the week that I've had with AI, nothing surprises me anymore. But it's like, oh, these are just personal videos, not a big deal, and wipes the whole thing. So number 1 is you will need to create constraints, as always, but do this a lot earlier than you think you have to. I thought I had time to configure my Openclaw to once everything was running locally. Massive, massive mistake. You can run it in a container. You can give it a certain amount of your CPU, GPU, and say, okay, you get this environment, but you can't go outside of it. But since I jailbroke it, I need to give it access to like root files and stuff in order to jailbreak. And so yeah, I'm not gonna run a container. I'm just gonna rip it raw. We're gonna see how that goes. But tip number 2 for you is to understand how cold starts work. You're gonna read a lot of stuff about local models, and you're gonna get a lot of bad information because it's talking to you about how to save memory and all whatever. And here's the truth. You can have multiple models. There's gonna be a lot of stuff you read on Reddit about using one model and then switching to another model. And you won't have enough room on a computer like this because you have like 16 gig or 32 gig at best for a computer like this. And so you'd shut down one model to start another one. But here's the thing. Cold start is essentially how long it takes to fill up your GPU with another model. And it takes forever. And so switching from one model to another, it takes forever, it slows you down. So smaller computers, you really should just use one model. And instead, this is going to be in the weeds, so we'll have to talk about this in a deep dive. You can have a dynamic ceiling of max tokens where you can send it messages and say your max token for this message is 1,000, right? And then when you know it needs more compute, you can allot it more. But here's the big thing. Your computer will LLM time out if you get over generous on what the max token amounts are. If you do what I did, here's the mistake that I made. I was thinking about how some of the biggest prompts that I've ever run using Anthropic were like refactoring an entire code base. So it's like reading a gigantic 5,000 line page of code and it's moving stuff around. Because I've seen that number get big, I decided that for like Gemma 4 and for Qwen 3.5, I put the max tokens at like 16,000 and 24,000. Because I thought, you know, one day we might need that. But here's the problem with that. Every time you give it a prompt, like, what's the weather today? It knows its max is 24,000. It goes and tries to allocate room to process a 24,000 token response. And it goes, nope, we don't have that LLM timed out. For cold start, you want to set your timeout for 300 seconds, okay? Setting your timeout for 300 seconds allows a language model to cold start. You want to put the keep alive to -1, which is forever, okay? Your keep alive is forever, all right? Trust me, we'll talk about that later. And then you want your output tokens to be a lot smaller than you think. You can have a model that has a maximum token output of like 400 tokens for your fast one, right? And you're chit-chatting, you're just trying to answer some stuff real quick, lightweight. Now that you know that you're going to need a bigger bot for bigger stuff, you can say spawn a sub-agent to do blank with blank model. So your first model could be like the GPT-OSS 20B. I think that's a really good fast one, right? And you can talk to that one and get a lot of stuff. You get a very snappy response the lower the max tokens are. Because it tries to allot the max tokens, it thinks it might need the max tokens, it's moving a little slower for that. You put your max tokens low at like 120, it's gonna give you a burst of short answers, very short. Very cool. I'm thinking about this as I'm saying this, but I think it's possible. You can use a command flag, --max-tokens, and say max tokens 3000. And for the one prompt you're about to give it, you can maybe give it a max token ceiling change. I'm gonna see if it works in reverse, so stay tuned. But this is conceptually what you could do. I like the idea of keeping two models hot. And in my Mac Studio, it's 64 gigabytes. So I can have the OSS and I can have the Gwen, and they both can take up space. And then you've got the session or context history of your bot, and that's all of what's taking up space. And then the one bot can do OSS, he can session new with a new model, right? So you do model and then new, and it'll do its thing, right? That's one way. You can use one bot for the small one, and then spin a sub agent and it will use the other one, and you don't have to start a new session. So your bot that has like the small tokens keeps its session history and stuff. But this leads to the third thing that you need to know is the myths about multi-agent or multi-model usage. One example of where people think you're going to use a lot of memory, but you won't. One model could be, you could use the Gwen, and you can have one bot who like has a max token constriction, and his max token is 300. And then you could have sub-agents where their max tokens are 15 and 3,000 and 10,000. Now what's cool is all four agents can run the same model at the same time, okay? This is called a parallel. You have one model loaded. That one model takes up 4 gigabytes just once, okay? And then all four sub-agents can in parallel be working on that model, and the model will serve all four. Each sub-agent doesn't need to load its own model. So it might be better to use a big model and manipulate max tokens down. It's still gonna be a little bit slower, where like Gwen is maybe like a 17 to 29 tokens per second. And the OSS, you can get over 100 tokens per second, right? You can get 130 if you do it right. The tokens per second that you get out of Anthropic or something like that, it can kind of reach 150. So for the very small stuff that's not really like heavyweight conversation, you can get a negligible difference of speed from the OSS 20B, right? If you do the load, like the smaller token loads for the Gwen, it's still more dense. You're still not going to get that speed. It gets expensive to do it the way that I like to do it. I like having two models open, and I like having two agents, one for each model. And then that way, I can have parallel things going on, one with the fast conversation, and then one doing the slow reasoning stuff, like the evaluation stuff. What I've been trying to do with my jailbreak is get my one agent to be able to dynamically change its model without me having to tell it, or to spawn a sub-agent to use another model without me having to tell it. And I think I finally got it. I almost broke my computer twice, jailbreaking, but I think I found a way to run a Python function that will calculate the size of like the job and then spawn a sub-agent if the job is gonna be big without me having to say so. So I'm gonna do an all about jailbreaking in the future. Fourth thing that you need to know is, honestly, these models aren't quite as smart. You're just gonna have to deal with it. You're just not gonna quite get the same results out of them that as per like a frontier model. Aside from Gemma, okay? I'm gonna put a shoe in my mouth already on this because I do believe Gemma 4 might actually be really good. So I've got Gemma 4. I haven't tested it enough because I've been too much of like a Quen fan. I'm probably gonna go Gemma and give you guys a full breakdown. But I keep an Anthropic API key on my computer that runs free models because when I went and I jailbroke stuff, the Olama models just wouldn't do the job, and I needed to pay for Anthropic to get the thing done the rest of the way. I just had to. So you may not be free forever. You probably keep that golden parachute API key, pay as you go. That's okay, right? Because you guys are paying $200 a month anyway. Again, frontier models are really good. And so you will get less intelligence. You're gonna have to deal with that. And one tip for that is break your stuff up a little bit. Give it smaller steps and tell it to do something a little bit smaller, a little bit easier, right? I think that's a big mistake that people are making is we've gotten so used to Anthropic and OpenAI taking your prompt, taking it where they've got all the computers in the world, all the time in the world, all the power in the world, and they'll take your prompt and go, okay, cool. We're going to do all of this horsepower and charge for it, so we're gonna deal with the fact that it's messy. But on your computer with finite resources and finite time, it's a lot easier for you to understand the thing that the bot is gonna do for you will be 3 steps. So instead of you giving it something fat and it trying to chew on 3 steps at the same time, give it step 1, and then give it step 2, and then give it step 3. My jailbreak is designed to create an iterative loop of smaller steps where it's got a function before the prompt happens, it's got a function that runs after the prompt is complete, and it will tell itself the next message. And I will have my jailbreak available once I find a way to give it to you guys without like destroying your computer in the process, because I don't want you to hate me. But to button this phase of the video up, cold start, it's a real big thing. It takes a long time to load a model. It's better to have 2 models preloaded than to switch between one and the other. Do not have your keep alive at 0. -1 is the move. Load those babies in so that way you can run both of them at the same time. And having 2 models loaded at the same time does allow you to have 2 agents running at the same time. You definitely do need 64 gigabytes to pull that off with a big model and a mini model. You could also then just run a good solid medium model and have max tokens if you're running something like this. That's probably a better move. You can use like the OSS 20B or something like that, and you can have one that has a max token of 300, right? And then you can have another one that has a max token of like 5,000. And you can probably do a lot of damage with that, actually. I think we might overestimate our needs with AI, right? If you give an AI small enough chunks, it can accomplish the world if you give it small enough chunks. And I think that's probably the main thing that we're all going to learn going local, how just sloppy we've been with our AIs. Anthropic's made it really easy to be sloppy. If you have questions about the models that I'm using, this guy's running a model. My studio downstairs is running a model. I've got bots in Tampa and Wisconsin. My business does over $1 million a month. Of course, I have a revenue agency that needs a bunch of powerful modeling because I also do revenue management for Airbnb hosts. And so if you've got questions about vibe coding, OpenClaw, anything about making money for real with AI, I've been a business owner for about 2 decades now. And I've got 6 businesses that do 7 figures a year, 1 that tees off on that per month. So I can teach you guys how to actually make money with AI. I'm going to get you out of tinkering and into actually making money. That's the point of this channel. Thank you for being here. Subscribe if you want to see me crash course through going local. It's going to be a journey. This was day 2. Thank you so much. There's going to be a video, the 10 things you need to know about like OpenClaw in 2026. When it's ready, it'll be right here. Watch that video next, and I'll see you on the other side.